Welcome to the latest Motley Fool scoreboard. I'm on in Chocolate. We've got longtime fools, Dan Caplinger and Jason Hall, giving a 1 to 10 rating to a Moneyball wreck, Accenture, ticker symbol ACN. Rate the strength of Accenture's business first, including factors like industry and competition. 10's invincible, 1's hopeless. Both of you have 8s, Jason.
Yeah, I think we're seeing in real time that being big and having, expertise in multiple disciplines is really valuable for consulting and professional services companies. A lot of the more pure play and niche companies, especially the ones that are focused on technology, are really struggling. But Accenture's position is like the one throat to choke. Key is keeping its people busy and keeping its clients getting billed.
Yeah. And, a lot of people are looking at Accenture and asking questions about AI disruption. I think those threats are overblown at this point for very simple fact of nature. Businesses need somebody to blame. They need that blame person to be a real person if things go wrong. Blaming AI is not going to save your job. Blaming Accenture may save your job. Accenture provides that cover. That cover is going to continue to be valuable for executives, for clients going forward.
Yeah, and if things go well, you can say, hey, we brought in the experts.
Exactly.
Right. You take the credit, you give away the blame.
Yep.
For management, a 10 is Warren Buffett, a 1 is Homer Simpson. Dan's at a 9, and Jason, you're also at a 9.
Julie Sweet has done an extraordinary job running the company through some really tumultuous times in tech innovation and disruption. Not just navigating the environment, but I think strengthening the business too. I like to look at the boards of businesses like this, and you have an interesting mix of independent directors that have been on the board for a very long time and have broad experience in different industries. But you also see a handful of relatively new members that have just joined the board in the past few years, but they're also just as deeply experienced and tenured in a lot of fields that I think really supports the business.
Yeah, I think Sweet has a good mix of experience. I think her past experience, she's an attorney. She had a long tenure at major law firms in the industry. And I think that shows in her management style in a positive way. It's steady leadership. It's considered. It's thoughtful. That strategy, I think, that thoughtful, moving forward, but not in a reckless manner, I think has really served Accenture well during her tenure.
Admit it, Caplinger, you're just a little bit biased towards lawyers.
Yeah, if they're doing a good job, yeah.
Fair. And she is. She is.
Right. Dan claims the lawyers when they're good and kicks them out when they're bad. It's
there you go.
Classic thing we were talking about earlier. For financials, a 10 is a fortress, a 1 is yikes. Both of you have 7s, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, the margin profitability trends have not been favorable for a while. I think they could also continue to deteriorate, but maybe for good reasons. The company has to continue to spend money in people and technology to stay relevant. But I think broadly, this is just more about the industry cycle than like a company that's not executing. I think Accenture's doing well. It's just transitioning through this period. The good thing too with a balance sheet is that it's in fine shape, and that should help support continuing to make those investments through a transitional period.
Yeah, it's that heavy investment in technological innovation, capital expenditures that I think is the big wild card for Accenture here, because overall the business looks pretty solid. Growth seems to be returning. You got margins that seem to be holding up okay. You have steady gains in profits overall and a good large cash flow to support that capital investment and also cover debt maintenance. That's why I'm comfortable giving it a 7, even with kind of that big question mark hanging over it.
All right, Dan, let's move on to valuation. How well will Accenture's stock do over the next 5 years, and how safe is it? 10's a sure thing, 1's a lottery ticket.
I gave it 5 to 10% returns over the next 5 years with a safety score of 6. And there's a disconnect here between my feelings about the business and what I think the market's feelings about the business are. I think from the market perspective, the bloodletting for the stock may not be over because those AI concerns, I think they're overblown. Jason thinks they're overblown, but most investors in the market, they disagree with us. it's going to take a while for Accenture, I think, to prove to those skeptics the stickiness of its client base and its ability to adapt to the situation. And until that happens, I think the stock may not recover as much as perhaps it should over the long run.
Yeah, Dan, I think for me and for you too, it's just acknowledging a little bit of humility here that some really smart investors are saying one thing, and maybe I disagree a little bit with it, with my expectations. Similar to another recent show we did, I'm optimistic here. I think 10 to 15% annualized returns over the next 5 years. But the safety score, again, is a 5 because directionally there's risk, right? Disruption, but also executing, because the business has to navigate this and to continue to take share. They're going to have to change in some important ways and demonstrate that they can be a leader in helping businesses go through this transition with AI and integrate it into their business as well. And failure to execute or just being disrupted, either one or some combination, could lead to real permanent losses. But I do think the valuation is compelling enough that it makes the risk reward really interesting to me. And I don't own Accenture, but I do think that it's probably going to do pretty well going forward, at least if we're measuring just 5 years from now.
I've certainly been buying on the during the bloodletting, so I'm optimistic. Thank you to both Jason and to Dan. They've given Accenture a solid overall score of 7.2 out of 10. Jason has no Toppets, but Dan prefers Kyndryl. Look out for a new scoreboard every market day at 7 p.m. Eastern. Next up is Williams-Sonoma. Till then, Fool on.